everybody, welcome to a new video coming up here on Backbreaker Video, the day after review, where we take one of our AEW pay-per-views, we watched it from top to bottom all the way through, but we're going to give it a day to let it settle and really give our thoughts and feelings about how it feels here. So once again, I am Mike the Ref here, senior producer here at Backbreaker Video. Once again, do us a favor, give us a like, give us some subscribe. It helps the channel out immensely if you can. Over 400 of you stopped by to say hello over the process of 5 hours on the live stream, both on YouTube and on Twitch. And for that, I am eternally grateful. But you know what? Now that we've had a day to process everything that went on, because we had a lot of feelings during the show, and it definitely boiled over at a couple points there. But now that there's been a little bit of time to think about stuff, I think we can get a little bit more level-headed and sort of understand exactly what should and shouldn't have happened, what ended up looking good, what ended up looking horrible, and what just shouldn't have been there. But let's get into it. Format, I still haven't figured out completely how we're going to do this. I have one idea at the end, but we'll get to that. But let's get into the preview, or the pre-show. I just bundled it all together with, there was a decent show. It told a little bit more storyline going forward into other shows like Collision and Dynamite. For example, the Daniel Garcia stealing the tag off Adam Cole, getting the pin in the 8-man tag, and then just walking out on Cole. That didn't do anything to help sell pay-per-views. That just pushed you towards checking out Collision now to see what happens between Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia. And then the one segment that we all, I think, can agree just didn't need to be there was Chris Jericho and Gravity, which was supposed to be a match, but it almost seems obvious, like, wouldn't that be the first thing you'd want to do if you were a champion? If you had to defend your title, you'd literally just walk in and beat the other guy with a baseball bat. That's some GTA stuff there, and I really wish that they wouldn't have put that on this card, because I got a feeling I know where this is going to end up. It's probably going to end up with a Bandito versus Jericho mask versus title matchup somewhere here. It should be at All In, but it's probably going to be on a random Dynamite somewhere. And it just didn't feel like it should have been there, period. So, but once again, it's drifting you away from wanting to buy the pay-per-view and wondering what the hell is going on here. Everything you should be doing during the pre-show should be getting people to want to spend their $50 to catch this show. So, Commander and Hologram taking on Blake Christian and Lee Johnson. That did a great job of warming the crowd up, getting them ready for going. And then the viral moments we got during the 6-man tag main event with all the celebrities coming in, and the Rizzler dressing up as Orange Cassidy, which in many people consider to be the highlight of the night in many ways. And I think it's very fun to consider that way. It was a fun match. Crowd was happy, crowd was ready. And it settled into what was going to be a very high level, for the most part, pay-per-view. I was almost going to call it a PLE, but no, it was a PPV. But then they opened the card. We had MJF and Hangman Page, which we were leading into the idea of the insanity of MJF trying to validate himself and trying to get over that he is the most important person in the company, and Hangman just not letting him have it and just being that ultimate tough guy. In the end, Hangman does get the victory here, which I think is the right call. I think Hangman getting that step forward, especially with everything going on later tonight, made a lot more sense for him advancing. And MJF taking a loss here isn't the worst thing in the world, because now he can go completely cuckoo as he is getting just angrier and angrier at the world for anytime he's got a good spot. His self-doubt, his self-worth has just completely decided to go into the toilet. So With that being said, I think it was a very good match. I think it was a good opener to choose. Might have a better one here, but we'll get to that here. Following that, in terms of I would have to say the clunkiest match of the night, it would have to be the TBS Championship match with Mercedes Moné and Momo Watanabe. Now, I get it. Mercedes is supposed to be acting like she's having a bit of a struggle working with these different competitors all over the world, people that she's not supposed to be used to working. It just, early on in that match, it just didn't feel like there was much of a flow to it. And Mercedes was struggling to get into it. Momo was struggling to get into it. It almost seems like there was a different pace that Momo was expecting, and it just got shut down on her. Or it shut in other spots. It was like the pace was too slow and she couldn't keep up to it. Just for some of the spots that Mercedes was trying to do, she was trying to be fluid with them, and all of a sudden Momo's just not there to take them. So it just looked awkward at the beginning of the match. Once again, Mercedes hits the moneymaker and then gets in the choke out for the tap out there at the end. Suitable enough, but when you got a caliber of a show this wide, this does stick out as one of the worst technical matches of the night. I don't want to say worst match of the night because we're getting there. We'll go there. It got the job done. It got Mercedes over once again. They were showing Billy Starks in the stands throughout numerous times, and I really do feel that we are going to end up getting Billy Starks and Mercedes at Dynasty. I hope that some way we can get Athena in there. I don't know if we want to do Athena at Double or Nothing or All in Texas, because that's like the next two pay-per-views after Dynasty here. So there's different ways they could go with it and possibly run that through. And then we started getting into the Can You Top This section of the show with Swerve Strickland and Ricochet going at it for the number one contendership for the AEW Championship, as well as the custody of Jimmy Jacobs' robe that belonged to Prince Nana. This one here, Ricochet might be considered one of the top wrestlers that has redefined himself since entering into AEW. And just tonight, he got to show off. Swerve got to show off. Swerve did mention in the post-show press conference, he was one of the few that were able to actually make it out for that. Swerve was able to say that he legit does not get along with Ricochet. They have a lot of differences, and I don't need to go into them, but I can see why there would be a lot of differences there and some of the opinions that different people have and whatnot. But that's their own. We're sticking with wrestling here at this point. But these guys made beautiful magic together. Swerve ends up hitting 3 nasty house calls to get the victory there and become the number one contender for the AEW World Championship, whoever comes out of the main event tonight. I would say this match was the beginning of Can You Top This? And it really did show that we had a lot of fun happening here. So, well, then following that, I'm trying to remember which one went next, but both of these, they're not in the same caliber of each other, but they almost feel like they're in the same standard. Let's talk about the rough one first. We're going to do the tag title match between the Hurt Syndicate and the Outrunners. Now, the Outrunners got this basically as an upset victory over the Murder Machines on the Collision, not the day before, but the week before. Had an upset victory over the Murder Machines that qualified them for this title match at the pay-per-view. This match basically looked like the Outrunners were able to toy around with the Hurt Syndicate until they realized who they're facing and where they're at. And the Hurt Syndicate just basically turned the switch and just murdered them. And you end up getting that super kick into the spear. 1, 2, 3. It really was an easy victory. But my personal opinion on this match, This should have been a match on Dynamite or Collision. This didn't need to be here. I get it. You want to put Lashley and Benjamin on the pay-per-view. You want to get the pop for the "we hurt people. We hurt people." You're going to get that viral moment out of that. So we know that's coming. But at the same time, at the cost of all the great matches that we had on this card, it just didn't need to be there. Well, then from there, we had the Continental Championship match between Kazuchika Okada, the champion, and Brody King, the hometown challenger. First comment I got is Brody was looking great in full tights rather than just the short shorts. The gear looked great. He looked great. Okada looked great. This was going to be a meat match. This was going to be a hard-hitting match. This involved Rainmakers. Okada avoiding the Gonzo bomb at all costs. And generally just a lot of shenanigans back and forth by Okada here, just trying to find a way to get a victory. Finally, he gets that Rainmaker after a few hits and a distraction. He gets the 1, 2, 3. We all knew Okada was winning. I think it was pretty confident. I don't think we are going to have any way that we were going to skip Okada losing that to Brody now, especially with what's coming up future in the card. A very good match. Just gets overshadowed by these 6 and 7 star matches that we're about to talk about here, moving forward here, going into it. So, but then from there, they went with the mid card Hollywood ending women's title match, Toni Storm, Mariah May. Now, I got my Toni Storm shirt on here versus Jury. This match here was a cinematic masterpiece on so many levels. Even the fact that Toni Storm did cut herself a little too deep, and she openly admitted that she did that on the broadcast. But this match here, like, it only went 13 minutes. Like, people were thinking it went a lot longer, but they managed to tell an immaculate story in about 13 minutes here between two people that have worked together for so long together, and the violence that they had, the false finishes throughout the match, the ancient, I forget which movie it is, Bloodsport, I think it was, where they wrap their hands in the gloves and then put them in the glass so that the glass is on their hands as they're going to attack each other. It was disgusting, but it told so many great stories behind it. So, in the end, you end up getting the Storm Zero through the Hollywood ending table set up on the stage. And Toni Storm is victorious. They end up with the words "the end" on the Jumbotron. And Toni just lied on Mariah to close out the scene there. I'm going to call this straight up, and we'll talk about it after, once we get to what they booked as the main event. This is what should have closed the show. The end. Seeing Toni and Mariah, you could actually fade out on the two of them together and just cut the stream right there. It was right there. That is like WWE 2K24, 25, my GM, putting the matches out of order. It is straight up a mistake. And this one was set up perfectly for them, and TK just fumbled it. He said after, and we're going to be talking about the other three here in just a moment here, but Tony Khan was asked it in a very indirect way at the press conference after the show, and he basically said any of the last four matches he felt could have main evented this pay-per-view. We got a title match. We got two title matches and a cage match that are following this, as well as the women's match. Tony, I would agree with you 75% of that. There is one match that should not have ended this show, and it really did show up by the end of it. So, well, let's get on to the rest of the matches, and we can do the the wrap up at the end here. For the international title, Konosuke Takeshita and Kenny Omega, 30-minute classic. It's Omega. Like, the ladies left their blood, sweat, and tears all over the floor and basically said, go top that. And Kenny Omega just turned around and said, okay. Takeshita turned around and said, okay. Kenny, you got this? Yeah, we got Takeshita, you got this? Yep. And they just put on a clinic for 30 minutes, a story well drawn out, a very gross spot where Takeshita ends up doing a front release suplex on Omega over a table. I'm really hoping that they finally start going away from the diverticulitis talk about it, because it just doesn't feel comfortable watching that at some point. And I understand it's supposed to be awkward. I understand that it's supposed to be not familiar. I understand it's not supposed to be something that's pleasing to watch. But at the same time, you're overkilling it here. Brock Lesnar had diverticulitis. A lot of people have diverticulitis, and they're back in there, and things are pretty much back to normal for him. Kenny is not that weak, and don't make him look like it. Just straight up. Kenny ends up winning in the end after like 5 or 6 different finishers all over the place. And Omega finally gets that victory, 1, 2, 3, and ends up becoming the international champion. I think we all could see that this is setting up a match between Okada and Omega at All In, in Texas. They were, even during the first interaction, they were putting those two heads right in between the damn poster when Omega handed off the title at World's End. Like, gee, don't make this too obvious, Captain Obvious. But I will be happy when we have an Intercontinental Championship, not just for the fact that we are going to get a new get an extra title belt out of the way, but just to see how Trolls and other promotions deal with that stuff, right? I digress. Anyway, let's get to our next match here, because this one was just as great of a story. In a steel cage, you had Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. Now, this is essentially the third match in the series between these two. They've had tag matches together. They've had very violent and brutal matches against each other. They've told a hell of a story with each other. These two, once again, Will Ospreay is proving that him and any other opponent he's with are kings of the Y button. If you're not familiar with the Y button, if you play WWE 2K games, the Y button is the reversal button. We are getting different scenarios there where guys are reversing 4, 5, 6 times in a row. And it is just a piece of art, some of the stuff that was going through here. Like having the screwdriver at the top of the cage, so when Kyle looks like he's escaping, he's actually going to get a tool. The fact that we had the barbed wire bat. And the scene that I didn't realize, they were replaying when Ospreay went in front of Fletcher and did the cheese grater with the bat over the face. They were replaying the 2004 Intercontinental Championship match between Randy Orton and Cactus Jack here in Edmonton. And as they were all done there, Ospreay's in the corner and gives the Cactus Jack bang bang salute. Just that part popped me. Then I got a second pop when I understand the whole thing and saw it there. A lot of people are considering Kyle Fletcher to look just like Randy Orton, so it works on so many levels. But seeing everything that had to finish that match, we had a Styles Clash on thumbtacks by Ospreay on Fletcher. We had a Spanish Fly off the top of the cage, which Ospreay openly admitted he was scared to death to do. But You got your best friend up there. You're going up there for a shot. You go for it all, and that's a memory that's going to live for a very long time, my friend. And then he hits the Tiger Driver to win it. And essentially give Fletcher some time off now, it looks like. It's probably what's going to end up at this point. After the match, Ospreay did cut a promo in the back, talking about how he wants the ball, he wants to run with it now. So we are starting to slowly work our way towards Ospreay becoming AEW World Champion. I wonder how long that's actually going to get him to take. I'd like to see them run Swerve Hangman back at All In Texas, because that just feels like it should be right for the AEW Championship. And yes, I am thinking that far ahead in terms of other matches here, but we'll talk about that. Well, I guess we're coming up to it right now, but Ospreay needs to get himself back in the winning ways here and needs to get a lot more consistent on his victories. So, well, then let's get to this main event, because there's a lot of controversy behind this. Jon Moxley, Cope. This match here, I did not expect a 5-star classic. I didn't even expect the same type of match that we saw from the other ones. Because Moxley in his promos is always saying that AEW is turning into something that is desecrating the sport of professional wrestling. So if he's doing a different type of wrestling, then it would make a lot of sense, because his style wrestling is a lot different than what everybody else is doing, and he doesn't think this type of wrestling deserves the shot at the title, or deserves the title, so he has to defend how to keep the title at this point. It was your typical, I hate to say WWE match, but it was. A lot slower pace, a lot more deliberate pace, a lot more telling of a story here. I was a little frustrated how the whole thing played out. Wheeler coming out to attack Cope. All right, well, we'll continue that on a little bit and keep the Death Riders thing going. Okay, fine. I'm not happy about it, but it's still okay at that point. But having Jay White come out and do the accidental hit on Cope with the briefcase, tries to go hit Mox ducks, and Cope gets nailed, and then all of a sudden Wheeler grabs Jay White, brings him out of the ring, and they basically brawl to the back. And that's how they get rid of that scenario there. All right, fine. It's a little rough, but it's a little cliche too, because we really don't know whose side it's Jay White on now, but he looks like an absolute doofus for doing that and having all that come up. But then all of a sudden you have Cope about to win after the third spear, and Christian Cage pulls the referee out of the ring to break the count up. To which he signs the contract, making this match a triple threat, hits Cope with the spear, but then Mox comes in. He hits him with a spear, only gets a 2. Goes for the unprettier, hits it, tries to roll him over, has his back to Moxley. Moxley dives in with the Bulldog choke and chokes Christian out, no matter, even if he's trying to get to the ropes, which wouldn't have mattered because there's no rope break in a triple threat. But it ends up costing Christian not only that guaranteed contract, but his chance at the title. Moxley retains when he was dead to rights to Cope. And it also makes Christian look like a complete dumbass. Because if Cope would have won, he could have knocked Cope out and just kept it as a one-on-one. And yet you think somebody as cerebral as Captain Charisma, the head of Patriarchy, would have thought about that. But he turned it into a triple threat, which, like I said, it's a way to keep the title on Mox, which I don't... All I can say is Swerve better take that title from him. We're getting to the point where it's really becoming a point of not wanting to watch. versus just being bad booking. And I said in our prediction show that we were eventually going to get to a Cope versus Christian ladder match at Double or Nothing. I think we're still headed for that. We're just going about it a different way here. Because, Cope's not going to allow Christian to cost him his AEW World title because of what happened there. So he's going to have to deal with that again. But yeah, that's that. At the end of the night on Mox going to the back through his normal back doorway, getting interrupted by Prince Nana, and then having Swerve dive off the top of the balcony that they were in onto everybody with a Swerve stomp. Music plays, Nana dances, we fade to black. Not exactly the most auspicious ending to the show. You had TK after the show during the press conference say he did that because he wanted to make sure the crowd went home happy. In my opinion, and I'm going to call this the, what was the exact term I had for this? I'm going to put it here, on second thought moment of the night. My personal preference on what they should have done on this show, they should have put the men's title match as the opener to the show. You could do all your shenanigans in there. You can have Christian come in and cash in his contract and all that stuff. Mox still win, and he just leaves. And then you have Christian and Cope just stare down each other. You could fade to the break to go to the next match, which probably would have been MJF and Hangman. And I would have put the women's match right on the main event, and just like I described during the match, you put that women's match last, you got the end on the screen, you focus on Tony and Mariah at the end, you do the whole Hollywood circle, close in, fade to black, done. Everybody goes home like, wow, AEW produced some absolute cinema tonight. And it would have been so far away from the men's title match that you almost don't even think about it by the end of the night. Because your last impression is the one that you give the most here. In terms of predictions, I think I got all of them right except for the men's title match. It looks like we're walking into a Swerve versus Mox at Dynasty, which, like I said, I do hope that we do get that title off of Moxley over to Swerve and just start setting up for Double or Nothing and for All In coming up. Because right now, this Death Rider story, I hope TK is learning from the Bloodline storyline, where the fact that it really did go a lot longer than it should. It finished in a hell of a way, but it still went a lot longer than it really should have. But we'll have to see how the pieces fall apart here and get put back together here on Dynamite on Wednesday. And yeah, I think that's going to finish up our day after review. If you guys got a name for the sober second thought, the one thing you would change about the pay-per-view after the fact, please let me know in the comments here. If you have any thoughts on the show, please throw those in as well. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Just a reminder that we do watch all AEW Dynamite's collisions and pay-per-views, both on our YouTube channel here, Backbreaker Video Live, as a part of a sidecast, as well as our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MikeTheRef. We have a ton of fun together. We have a great community, and I hope to see you all there next time. But I think that's going to wrap up our day after look here. So I got some editing to do, get this video up, getting ready to go here. Once again, everybody, thank you for joining us here, and we will see you all here next time on the Backbreaker Video YouTube channel. Take care, everybody.